Now the 5 and 4 Yeomanry had continued their advance, less one squadron, which of course had already been knocked out, through the area of 4, and one troop got up to the track between Bourguébus and La Haye. They were knocked out. And so were many other tanks knocked out, including the commanding officer's tank. In fact, communication with them was lost for some time. And then it was discovered that they had lost 40 tanks.
HMP, get yourself forward and guard your men, or I'll have you bloody relieved!
So this video is a brief break from the tank huddle, and I'm going to try and use it to process what I've learned from playing Hardcat rules. Now most of this came by mistake, because I'd forgotten to move forward F Company as commander, but hopefully we can use it to understand the importance of communication, leadership and information sharing. We also get to look at different perspectives and some of the challenges a commander faces without the God's eye view. The problem facing me was a simple one: a stalled attack on a position more complex than expected. I felt the need to draw my commanders in, brief on the situation and formulate a plan. So huddling around the map at the back of Major Ripley's half-track, I let the game update everyone's picture and set the platoon objectives as part of the company's task to take the village. On 7th platoon, you're going to assault and clear the building. 6th platoon, you follow closely behind and secure this. Fanning back out to their platoons, the young lieutenants back-briefed their section commanders and prepared to carry out least worst option from the pile of poor choices.
Okay, get them moving. Sunray, this is 7th, position cleared over.
How many hits were being scored?
Hits?
Yes.
Well, it's difficult to say, because you'd sort of look round and you'd see a puff of smoke and a tank or vehicles in flames, and you're moving all the time. You're only conscious of sort of things in your particular little bit, because there's so much smoke and chaos and movement. You couldn't see anything at all. It was just mess, what have you.
Now normally we'd look at the situation from a grand scale, but this time, because we're playing Iron Mode, we can take a quick perspective check instead. F Company's commander has pulled up at the first hedgerow, and he asks E Company to push out on the flanks while he sends his 2 IC on ahead to gather the platoon leaders. 2 turns later he arrives at the edge of Fur and holds that commander's conference for the introduction. 6 and 7 platoon have both been engaged in a fight that's going nowhere, with 6 platoon aware of a rapid firing autocannon on their left, 7 aware of gun positions on their right, and both aware of infantry and tank vehicles to their front. So this is our choice really. We can either flank left and get chewed up by autocannon, flank right and get blown up by guns or shot by machine guns, or we can take our chances with what we can see to our front, about a platoon of men in a hard-pointed manner. We could try and get some more information on either flank, but we've already been engaged for 10 minutes and this thing needs to get moving, so it's going to be straight up the middle with bags of smoke and plenty of fire support. The Honeys move onto the field to give close fire, and for 3 turns the platoon mortars smoke out the building. 7 platoon will take the building and 6 platoon will press onto the 45-degree hedgerow to the left. From breaching the building to clearing it takes 7 platoon 4 minutes, and in the process the platoon commander and all of one section are either killed or wounded. The combat mission though is again showing its age. I desperately wish that there was better close combat mechanics and that we could get in there with some bayonets.
I'm on you, Nazi mugs! That's
From F Company's perspective, they've been completely unaware for 6 minutes until 7 platoon reorgs and radios back its sit rep. The same applies for 6 platoon, who are now in a new firefight with the opposite hedgerow. Until they settle in and radio back, F Company is unaware. I found this quite interesting, so normally I would push 5 platoon forward as soon as the God's Eye view showed me I was good to press up. But looking at the perspective of F Company, they were held back for another 4 turns until the picture became clearer. 5 platoon's part in the bigger company plan is to punch through to the southern end of 4 with a troop of honeys and take this manor and courtyard here. This manor is then going to become F Company's staging area with 7 platoon providing protection. F Company and E Company have good lines of sight and communications, so we assume they can coordinate, and they're going to have E Company pull into the field and set up flank protections here and here. And that frees up 6 platoon who can push in through the orchard and begin to squeeze the village itself. But before we get to that, we'll rewind slightly and pick back up at 11:56. So reading back through my notes, I can see I didn't actually think F and E Company had radio communications. I should really have played to the manual C2 check rule to see if there was line of sight and such, but instead what actually happened was F Company sent back a runner in a carrier from 4 platoon that was sort of milling around. 7 platoon called forward their half tracks to evacuate wounded and rearm, and 6 platoon engaged the opposite hedgerow and a German that was caught in the middle. At 11:57, 7 platoon began their reorg, and the first of the half tracks reached the manor. 11:58, I note that F Company commander follows 7 platoon's half track forward to figure out what's going on, and the runner reaches E Company to pass the order to come forward. 11:59, there's a brief lull in the fighting, so F Company receives both sit reps from 6 and 7 platoons. This is where they find out 7 platoon commander has been reported killed, 6 platoon will require rearmament, and their half tracks are being brought forward. We've then got 3 honeys from 1 troop who are preparing to move up in line with 6 platoon. This is also the same turn that E Company prepares to move, packing up their guns, but again there's a runner that needs to be sent out because one of the gun sections on the left is out of comms, so another little delay means E Company's move takes about 10 more minutes. At 12 o'clock, 6 platoon breaks off scouts to grab ammunition from the half tracks, and the honeys reach the road edge just next to 6 platoon. They end up in a back and forth with the auto cannons on the opposite field, but it turns out they're sort of impervious to the fire, so after knocking out the first scout car, they act on rule 4B and take the initiative to press forward to the opposite hedgerow at 12:02. But almost straight away the HQ tank is actually knocked down, so this ends up being a problem later because they're operating on their last order, and that was to punch through to the field. Now they have no immediate commander. I think I ended up handling this as though they'd become attached units, so there is rules within the set that allows you to command them as attached units so long as you meet 2 of 3 conditions, and also using manual C2 checks. 12:03, air support is on call, but we don't have any tasking for them yet, and then the rest of this turn the notes are a little bit sketchy, so I can't really see the reasoning for the actions taken. In most cases, someone has observed something, notified their one-up, and they've made a decision and then issued orders for something to happen, but I just can't see the chain of reasoning for this turn. 5 platoon is released by F Company for their attack on the back manor. I could possibly say it's because 6 platoon reports back that the auto cannons have been silenced, And then similarly, we push up a honey so it squeezes down the lane to support 7th Platoon because they've been taking fire from up the road. I could say this is a line of sight manual check, so the tank's within 50 metres of the HQ, they have clear line of sight. But reading back the rules, I might have fudged this one a bit because I don't really know if the tank commander could have heard 7th Platoon yelling at them from the building. Now, 1204 is a perfect example of confusion in battle. So F Company no longer has any idea how 5th Platoon is getting on. 5th Platoon is only aware of themselves, and they've got a sort of mixture of sound contacts and previous known positions that they can work with. And then the 2 honeys that made it across the field don't even know where each other are because they're buttoned up. Now normally with God's eye view we could have just given orders to the honeys to move up to the next field or have them follow 5th Platoon, but that's playing to the magical hive mind. Now again, this is exactly why we're playing this way and what we're trying to pull out of the video. So whilst the rules are restrictive, there are leeways within them. There's nothing to stop a lower level commander taking initiative. They can pass quick battle orders, they can have their tanks rush the next field. It's faster and it is more dynamic, but it is risky and we're now facing the consequence. The 2 tanks that made it are not in communications with each other or an immediate commander to take new directions from. At 1205, 5th Platoon has completely lost communications with F Company, but it has made good progress and it's debussing at a corner in the hedge which covers the road leading out of 4. As they pushed into the field, they actually made contact with the manor, but we got lucky. It was only a rifleman and they missed. But the half-track gunners have begun suppressing the windows. At 1206, 5th Platoon regains radio communications with F Company, and it's sort of around this point that I start to get the feeling that sit reps are being sent when the headquarter unit or the vehicle goes static. Which kind of makes sense. It's hard to speak into a set whilst you're running or driving. E Company's first gun section has also set up on the angled hedgerow, and this frees up 1 troop's honeys on that line as well as 6th Platoon. So again, those honeys are going to go and support 5th Platoon at the back of 4, and 6th Platoon will be able to push up through the middle. (1207). 8th Battalion reports to 5 and 4 Fire Yeomanry on progress in 4. 5 and 4 Fire Yeomanry begins considering a shift, possibly pulling A Squadron and the tank destroyers behind 4 North. At the same time, 1 troop is moving off to the south of the village. 1208, 4 and 5 troops begin advancing into 4. 8th Battalion Commander follows up behind. And then in 4, 7th Platoon expands the security around the manor and successfully knocks out a self-propelled gun. (1209), 7th Platoon pushes further up the main road with direct tank support, and 6th Platoon arrives in the adjacent field, where it starts to shake out so that it can clear through to the orchard, field by field. 1210, 1 troop regains control of the previously lost tanks and orders them forward to the orchard, supporting 6th Platoon. These tanks have been out of contact for about 8 minutes, doing nothing, and that delay matches up with something I'd recently read on morale in command. So this book I was looking at discussed how units can become paralysed and ineffective after losing their commanders. And I saw that play out when these tanks lost contact. It kind of gave a tough decision. So do I spend valuable turns and movements rallying them with a high level commander, or do I carry on with the forces still under my command and circle back for them later? 1211, 5th Platoon begins its assault on the manor, and 6th Platoon crosses the field towards the orchard. Meanwhile, 7th Platoon captures an anti-tank gun crew at the main crossroad into the village. 12:12, chaos. So the uncommanded tanks, still running on their last orders, which are a bit sloppy, charge into the orchard without infantry support. They cause total mayhem. So scout cars, enemy SP guns, all sorts spill out in confusion. And frankly, we're lucky we don't lose both tanks right there. A big part of that chaos actually is also the distinct possibility of friendly fire. So because no one really knows where anyone is, there's a good possibility that they fire across into neighbouring platoon areas. Again, fortunately, this doesn't happen, but it's really, really sloppy. At the same time, from the company HQ manor, a tank pushes forward only to have its commander killed by a lone shot fired from a barn up ahead. 12:13, F Company loses communications with 5 and 6 platoons, who are both now deep inside the village. 5 platoon is fighting through the manor, and 6 platoon is on the orchard's edge. At this point, the company commander can't influence events, and he has to wait for the platoon commanders to send their sit reps back. This feels like an eternity, but it's only been 2 minutes, and if I'm honest, this is something I still find fascinating about the turn-based system. So you might spend 10 minutes planning out a single turn, and then it plays out in 60 seconds. So you can easily lose track of time. And sometimes I think it's worth thinking about for the duration of a platoon level assault. So a British Army exercise attack, from assembly to reorg, it might be something like 20 to 30 minutes. But in contrast, during the Falklands War, a similar platoon attack might take over 3 hours. 12:14, lots of friendly movement both in and behind 4. A squadron joins 4 and 5 troops as they continue moving and begins assembling just north of the village. That continues through to 12:15 with the tempo gradually slowing. So the infantry begins reorganizing and sweeping through the village. A squadron pulls into the southern hedgerow and things begin to settle down in 4. About the same time, the battered remnants of B Squadron begin to stumble through, and they're quickly redirected to friendly lines to the north. It took just under an hour to complete the clearance of Four, from receiving orders at 11:35 to final clearance at 12:30. The final 15 minutes were a flurry of activity, with vehicles repositioned out of sight, one troop preparing to reconnoitre the route approach, the last German holdouts being routed out, and the platoons conducting rearming and casualty collection, including the lieutenant from 6th Platoon. 4 may be ours, but it's not what we're here for. The ridge, that's the objective. So at 12:26, the honeys of one troop, back in their recce role, push forward again, contouring towards the high ground. But we're in for another hard-cat nightmare. On the southwest end of 4, B Troop's tank destroyers come under fire from the ridge. One vehicle shudders, then goes silent, its crew bail, scrambling out, and then they see it, the shadowed behemoth that just ended their fight. They're alone, stranded, in an open field, radio dead, no way to warn anyone. 3 minutes later at 12:29, one troop's honeys are obliterated. Did any message get back? The spotting icons suggest not. A Squadron saw nothing, 2nd, 5 and 4th Yeomanry's commander heard no final transmission. But at 12:30 a breakthrough. The forward observer finally makes the spot, and unaware of the unfolding catastrophe, the 23rd Hussars rumble in. High above, the Typhoons finally have some targets, and we're now set for an incredibly confusing battle. So that's it for this one. In the next video, we'll return to the Armoured Inferno. Can we hold out, and can the Bourguébus Ridge finally be broken?